The traditional retail model is shifting rapidly, and there's a golden opportunity for anyone, yes anyone, to dive into the world of e-commerce. Young, ordinary people who have zero experience in the world of business, very little startup capital, and limited free time are taking advantage of this opportunity to make 1,000, 10,000, and even upwards of 100,000 euros every month. So how are they doing this? Well, they are utilizing the business models that I'll be breaking down and comparing in this video. In the end, I'll even show you my step-by-step framework that I've personally used to grow 8 brands that collectively have done over 15 million euros in revenue over the past 2.5 years. But before we get into it, I do want to be absolutely transparent with you. If you've clicked this video, it's most likely because you've got a goal of one day running a successful online business. But the honest truth is that 95% of people who start a business, a side hustle, or whatever it might be, fail within the first few months. And I cannot guarantee you that you will see the same results that I have. But what I can guarantee you, however, is by watching this video and paying close attention to what I'm about to tell you, you will have taken the first but crucial step towards becoming a part of the 5% that do succeed. In case you've never seen or heard of me, my name is Nikolaj Petersen. I've been trying to make money online ever since I was 16 years old, and it was only recently that I actually found success through e-commerce. Prior to that, I've personally experienced with a long list of different business models. I've done day trading, I built a SaaS platform, a fashion brand, a print-on-demand company, and the list goes on. Therefore, I'm speaking from my own experience when I talk about these business models. So let's get into it. When picking what business model best suits you, there are a few things you need to consider. First and foremost, do you have any specific skills that you can leverage? Maybe you already know how to code a website, or perhaps you're naturally a sociable person who knows how to sell a product. If you possess any skills, you're already ahead of most people. Next thing to consider is the starting capital. How much money can you realistically invest in the business? You also have to be aware of how many hours you're willing to put into the business to make it work. Now, you can definitely become incredibly wealthy with any of these business models that I'm about to go through, but some of them are way easier to get large profits with than others. Lastly, when you finally got a business up and running, you also want to consider to what degree the operation is able to run without your personal interference. Are you able to make it into passive income, partly passive perhaps, or do you need to be there full-time non-stop? With all of these categories in mind, let's now look at some popular online business models. A service-based business model leverages your skills to either consult, coach, or perform a specific task for your clients. It often takes a higher level of expertise, but luckily the startup costs are minimal or non-existent, as you only really are relying on your own skills to get started. However, that also means that the time you have to invest is quite substantial, and the possibility of autonomy is virtually zero. However, because people usually value high quality one-on-one work, the profit margins tend to be great in this space. Now, another very popular recent business model is info products. These are things such as online courses, ebooks, and even YouTube videos. In the case of YouTube videos, you can obviously get started without money or any particular skills, but usually info products require a high level of both skills and time investment. I've personally in the past year spent over 50,000 euros developing the best possible info product, but that would be a lot of money for a beginner to put into a product. As for the profitability, the margins are usually very high in info products based business, and that's because you've got virtually no cost of the product. The primary catch here is that you have to spend some money on marketing. Now, the possibility of autonomy here depends on what kind of info product you're selling. An ebook can become passive income, while that would be impossible with a YouTube channel. Yet another business model that you might have heard of is called affiliate marketing. Now, this is where you earn a commission by marketing another company's product. There are a few startup costs here in the form of SoMe ads and building a website. The advantageous thing about affiliate marketing is that the company which product you are selling handles the entire fulfillment side of the process, which obviously lowers the barrier of entry in the form of skills and time needed. But the problem with with a lower barrier of entry is that it's usually followed by a lot of competition. Now, when it comes to autonomy, the entire process can be mostly automated if you outsource your marketing. Another business model is obviously software, also called SaaS, software as a service. And that's a subscription-based software that you can access via the internet. And you already know a bunch of these. These are things like Netflix, Office 365, Zoom perhaps, and so on. The catch here is that these often require a lot of time, money, and expertise, and are rarely suited for beginners. They do, however, have the highest profitability and possibility of autonomy. And also, if you want to sell your software business, this is where you'll get the highest possible price for your business. Lastly, we've got e-commerce, which is a bit of a broad categorization, but we'll get into the specifics in just a minute. Now, the type of e-commerce that I'll be teaching you does require a fair bit of skill. Sourcing your product through a reputable supplier, negotiating beneficial shipping arrangements, creating a conversion-optimized Shopify store, marketing your product on Meta, TikTok, and etc. in a way that attracts customers. Thankfully for you, these are skills you can acquire right here on YouTube, and I'll even help you get started today. You do need a bit of starting capital to get your product off the ground though, but nothing major here. Around 100 euros should be sufficient. I personally got started with my first and to this day most successful e-commerce brand with exactly 513 euros on my account, and I launched the brand for around 60 euros. Initially, you'll have to invest time to get your store, ads, and supplier relationships up and running. But most of these operations can be outsourced quite easily when you've got a sufficient cash flow. But the absolute best thing about e-commerce is nearly the infinite scalability and profitability. And now look, I'm obviously slightly biased towards e-commerce. It's where my personal expertise lies, and it's what's made me my money, and it's what I teach my students. But the honest truth is that you have to choose a business model that fits your skill set. Your business should be a reflection of who you are as a person. So it's crucial that you choose one that fits your criteria. With that said, it's now finally time to get into my 4-step e-commerce framework that I've used to grow and scale my brands. To start with your e-commerce brand as lean as humanly possible, what I always love to do is to start with something called pre-orders. And using pre-orders is what I've had success with all of my brands, over 20 successful Shopify stores. And I know what you're thinking, if it was that easy, wouldn't everyone just do it? The reason why this works is actually because there are so many people trying to take advantage of customers by selling trendy, poor quality products. My whole framework, on the contrary, is built upon providing as much value to the customers as possible. And that's honestly one of my largest personal secrets. So I won't ever teach you how to do dropshipping or scam customers, and this is by no means a get-rich-quick scheme. I want you to build a legit, stable business that provides actual value to its customers. We simply just use the technique to validate our product, and after 1 to 2 weeks, we switch to a completely in-house brand with a 3PL and such. So the first step is sourcing a winning product. What I love to do here is to simply look at other successful brands. And I actually like to call this method open your eyes, because so many people out there are obsessed over the best products by software tools, but in reality you don't need anything else than to open your eyes and to simply become aware of what's performing for other brands. Take a look at what products successful brands are promoting in either your country or in other markets. Personally, I love being aware of what brands in the US or Australia do, and then implementing that in Europe or Scandinavia. With that said, a winning product in my eyes has some very specific criteria which yours need to be able to uphold by. Here's the 3 most important ones. A high AOV, and that's average order value. This means that your product should just basically, in my opinion, cost at least 60 euros. The second thing is a high margin. Your sales price for the product should at least be 3x your purchase price for the product, preferably more. And the third and final thing is a good market. And this is a market without many competitors, but still with a significant size. I typically determine this by doing some kind of online research on my product by simply Google searching it and looking for competitors. And if I can't find any, then that's a good sign. It's also completely fine if there are competitors in the market. The most important thing is that you know how to beat them. Setting up your store. This is the point where you sign up to Shopify. We've got a discount link below, and create your first store. There is a free trial on Shopify, so this is once again completely risk-free. So sign up, set up your Shopify store, and then you're good to go. If you want a step-by-step guide on how to set up your Shopify store, be sure to subscribe because I'll have a video coming out about that shortly. Now, once you're making your store, it's crucial to make it as trustworthy as humanly possible. So what I strongly recommend here, if you are a beginner, is to go onto larger established stores and take a look at how exactly they've built their store and then get inspiration from that. Don't copy, but take inspiration. Because chances are they've tested a lot on their site to improve their conversion rate. So by using their learnings and the entire landing page structure, you should be working in the right direction. Creating a brand. We want to strongly brand our product once we've seen some serious proof of concept for the product. So initially when you're creating your brand, do it as lean as possible. And what I mean by that is you shouldn't spend hours making a logo or coming up with a clever name. You can always change and improve that later. So for now, we just want you to focus on testing the product as soon and as lean as possible. With that said, as soon as you found proof of concept with your product, one of the first things you should do is to create brand guidelines. I've got a template for you to download for free down below. By setting up clear brand guidelines quite early, it just makes your brand seem so much more professional compared to your typical dropshipping stores. This is something a lot of beginners fail to do. Once again here, if you're new, take inspiration from your competitors as to how they've positioned their brand. Take a look at the colors they've used, the fonts, the tone of voice, and etc. Marketing your product. Now it's time to test your product. I've always done so on Meta through Facebook and Instagram ads. A good rule of thumb that I always use is that you should be able to test whether your product is viable by at most 3x the sales price of your product on ads. So if your product is selling at 100 euros, then you should never spend more than 300 euros testing your product through ads. Most times I've tested all my products for around 150 to 200 euros. And that's because once you've spent that amount, you should have sufficient data to be able to read and determine whether or not your product is viable. The main metric we're analyzing here is something called ROAS, which stands for return on ad spend. And that's basically just how much revenue you generate on 1 euro spent on ads. So if you spend 100 euros on ads and you've generated 200 euros in revenue, then that's a ROAS of 2. Therefore, it's calculated by dividing your revenue with your ad spend. If we can achieve a ROAS of above 3, then we are really onto something. And I would see that as a successful test of your product. I want to make it clear that this is obviously easier said than done. And if you're doing this on your own, you'll likely spend a few months working things out, and that's completely fine. That could either be because you can't find the exact winning product, you're perhaps struggling with conversion optimization on your Shopify store, or your ad creatives are lacking. These are issues I see all the time, and often when people encounter them, they simply quit. But I strongly encourage you to keep going. Take each failed product as a lesson, and eventually, if you try hard enough for long enough, you will see results. There's no doubt about it. If you're someone who wants to get started right away from the get-go and skip all of the months of trial and error, I've created the solution for you. Scaling with Ecom is an e-commerce mentorship course that I've created with some of the best experts in the field. But SWE is not just another course. We are a completely result-oriented community that help entrepreneurs build and scale e-commerce stores all the way from your first million in revenue to a potential life-changing exit. We do this with personalized counseling, including a tailored roadmap just for you, weekly coaching calls with myself as well as the other experts on the team. And contrary to most other courses on the market, SWE is built by a team with actual results in the industry. Just to reiterate, I myself personally have done 15 million euros in revenue across all my e-commerce stores in the past 2.5 years. And on top of that, we've got experts in the community with knowledge from over 33 million euros in ad spend. SWE is much more than just a course. While we do have plus 50 step-by-step modules that will take you from an absolute beginner to a seasoned e-commerce pro, we also offer you access to my network and resources, including agencies, suppliers, logistics, and more. You will have complete access to my team and I 24/7. And best of all, we've got an ambitious community of like-minded entrepreneurs who share advice and success stories to keep each other motivated. If you think you're a good fit for SWE and want to become a part of the community and learn the ways of e-commerce, well then check out the link below to book a call with us.